Well, during that time, our dad was alive. He also fished, you know, brought home fish and clams from Swinomish Island. We used to go out there and camp sometimes with him. Oh, when our dad used to go to the island to dig clams, sometimes we'd go with him on the wagon. Everyone pile on the wagon and we'd stay out there overnight in a tent. Didn't have a car then. No cars. Oh, it'd take about, I imagine, an hour or hour and a half to Swinomish Island. Just right out there by Edison. Yes, there were plenty of clams. We'd bring it home by the sacks. Then they dried them and canned them. When I stayed with my grandparents, they lived in Skagit, or way up by Rockport. And they lived by the river. And, my grandmother and I used to walk down. She wanted to visit someone across the river. And so we'd walk down and there'd be a canoe tied. So we'd get on that and she'd paddle across and we'd visit. Our dad, you know, grew a lot of vegetables, and mostly carrots, potatoes, cabbage, beans, and just strawberries. He grew strawberries and raspberries. We had all kinds of plums and apples and pears. There was one well down there by where that old Elders building was, way down below. Everybody used that well. It's a wonder they had enough water. We used to walk to Bow from our place. For groceries, I'd walk with my grandfather or my uncle. And on the way back, he'd always stop at this one family. This man was married to an Indian, and he'd always stop there. I was wondering why he did that, but that man would always give him a drink. I was wondering what it was. And he always sang to me. I must have been about 7 or something like that. He'd always sing, "When you and I were young Maggie," because that's what they used to call me when I was little, Maggie. He used to always sing that song to me, "When you and I were young Maggie." There were 8 in the family. Our oldest was Alfred Sampson, Helen Sampson Ross, Lottie Sampson Picard, and myself, and Eugene Sampson, and Elvina Sampson, and Ida Sampson Williams, Annie Sampson Cole. But I'm the only one living on that bunch. I have four siblings: Joyce Meacham Reyes and George Meacham, James Hook, and George Meacham Jr., and Jody Hook. And I have 10 grandchildren, 18 great-grandchildren, and 4 great-great. I think half of Lacana are my cousins or nieces. My mother was a basket maker, Mary Moore Sampson Willow. She has a basket at the Smithsonian. She'd go down by the river and get the roots that were hanging into the water. They were easier to get. And prepare it for baskets. She also knitted socks. Wool socks and sweaters. My mother was a shaker. She was a real good singer. Yes, he was Swinomish, and my mother was Skagit. Her grandparents were Skagit too. He was Swinomish and Skagit also. school at the Bow Public School, and it was a one-room school with one teacher from the grades 1 to 8, and there were about 18 students. We were the only Indian family living up there. Our parents and grandparents, you know, spoke that. They spoke nothing but the Indian language before we went to school. So none of us, my older sister and 3 of us, when we first started school, we didn't know any English. Well, we weren't allowed to speak our Indian language. We'd get in trouble. But yet some of the workers would sit there and speak their own language right in front of us. Well, after graduating from the Bow School, I went to Tulalip and finished the 9th grade there. Well, it was different going there because we had to stay there and, you know, the whole 9 months. We were furnished shoes and clothes to wear while we were there. Then I went to Tacoma for the next 3 years and graduated in 1933. Well, we had to go to church, yes. We went to church twice on Sunday, Catholic church. And then in Tacoma, of course, we went just once a week. In Tacoma, they had nursing. Well, we worked in the hospital there and learned a few things. Everything there, cooking and sewing and beauty school. And oh yeah, they had a shoe shop, and the boys were doing that. They had a barber school, and they'd work in the engineering department, you know, and learned a lot of that, and the dairy. After finishing in Tacoma, I heard about this job in Warm Springs Indian School as an assistant matron for the girls boarding school. So I applied and I got it, and I worked there for about 2 years, and I married. But after a few years, my husband died, so I had to go back to work again. And so I worked at their Indian hospital as a cook. After working there for about 2 years, I decided to move back to Washington. And I ended up in Seattle working at Boeing's as a riveter. That was during the war, World War II. The very next day after the war ended, our jobs were over. Well, then after that was over, my job was over there, I moved to Tacoma and worked at the Cushman Indian Hospital as a nursing assistant until the hospital closed in 1959. Then I transferred to Seattle Public Health Hospital. It was up on Beacon Hill. You could see it, that big brick building as you're driving south out of Seattle. From Warm Springs to the Cushman Hospital, that was all civil service. So when this hospital closed, they said there was an opening at the public health, and it was still civil service, so that's where I went. It used to be a seamen's hospital at first, you know, that public health. So they took in seamen and servicemen and their families and welfare people and Indians. And there were a few Swinomish that came there to the hospital while I worked there. Then I retired 1973. I had 26 years of civil service.